What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Sideswipe the Boss back at it again with another tier list. And it looks like I've taken a dive into the cartoon side of my favorite fandoms because today we are doing the Transformers Prime TV show tier list. Now, Transformers Prime is pretty much an old show now. It aired, I think it started airing like 2010, so it's been literally a decade since it first aired. It only had like 3 seasons, but I really liked the show growing up. I stayed with it from the beginning to the end. I think the last thing of it was like the movie. I thought it would continue after the movie, but I guess not. It ended in like 2013. But, I just decided to go back and do a tier list of it because, why not? So without further ado, let's get into it. And as you can see, it didn't really have too many main characters or even side characters. It was really just all the same people every time and a few side characters here and there. And the troops, but we're not going to put them in there. So first up we have June Darby. She was Jack's mom. And I really hate to start this list on a low note, but I didn't really care for her character that much. And I think she didn't really get involved too much until like the end of season 1, I believe. I believe it was the end of season 1. Let me know in the comments if it was something different. But I believe it was the end of season 1. But I didn't really care for her character that much. So she's going to go in the D tier. Next up, we have the main man himself, Optimus Prime. And you already know he's going in the S tier. I feel like every Transformers tier list I do, Optimus will probably end up in the S tier. He's just the GOAT, always. After Sideswipe, of course. Next up, we have Agent Fowler. And he is a pretty decent character. He brought the comedy, so I really like that about his character. And, he had the military connections and stuff. And he did have a little rivalry with Sylas, that mech guy. And that was pretty cool. So I'm going to put him in the B tier. I don't know if he'll end up at the top of the B tier, though. Next up, we have Hardshell. He was like the leader of the Insecticons, probably one of the only ones who actually had a personality. And he was pretty cool until he died. But still, he was cool nonetheless. So he's going to go in the C tier. Next up, we have Sylas. And he was the leader of this group called Mech, I think. They're like humans who were trying to take Transformers parts and like use it for their own use and stuff like that. He was a pretty cool character. Like I said earlier, he had a decent rivalry with Agent Fowler. I think he ended up dying though when he like took over Breakdown's body, but then he like failed Megatron and stuff like that. So he's gonna go in the C tier, but above Hardshell. Next up, we have Starscream. Starscream also brought the comedy, and he was always trying to take Megatron's spot. No matter how loyal he made himself sound, he was always trying to take over. And even when Megatron was like down or decommissioned for that stretch in season 1, he took over. He like ran the Decepticons down and stuff. And he would always, he would betray everybody. But he was still a pretty cool character nonetheless. So he's going to go in the B tier and above Fowler. Next up, we have the main Decepticon man himself, Megatron. And Megatron is also going in the S tier. He was just awesome. I mean, his design was awesome. He had some great storylines. He was cool when he came back as Galvatron, I think, in the movie. But he was more neutral when he was Galvatron, I think. But it was still cool nonetheless. So definitely S tier material. Next up, we have Bulkhead. He was like the brute, the strong man. Not that smart, but with a big heart. He was pretty cool too. So he's going to go in the B tier, but above Fowler. Next up, we have Raph. And Raph was like the smart human out of the group, Wasn't he like only 11 or 12 or something? He was out here hacking government and stuff like that. Shoot, he need to hack some taxes. You know what I'm saying? Hey, don't hack, kids. Don't hack. Unless you're Raph. But he's going to go at the top of the B tier for me. He was a cool character. Probably my favorite out of like the 3 human children. Next up, we have Cliffjumper. And Cliffjumper, he was okay. I mean, he didn't really do too much. He died in the first episode. And I think he only had like a few flashback episodes. So he didn't really do that much in the show overall. So he's going to go at the top of the D tier. Next up, we have Knockout, the Decepticon who cares more about his paint job and how he looks than actually completing the task at hand. And it was kind of funny nonetheless. And he was a cool Decepticon, you know. He had a cool car design. Didn't I think he joined the Autobots during the movie? Or was it during the movie, or was it during like the last episode of season 3? I'm not really sure. But he joined like the Autobots, and I guess that was fine. But overall, he was a cool character. So he's going to go at the top of the C tier. Next up, we have Dreadwing, and Dreadwing was a cool character. I don't really remember too much about what he did. Did he die sometime? I'm not really sure, because it's been a while since I've seen the show, but he was cool when he showed up. He had a pretty cool, you know, design. He had some pretty cool fight scenes, and he did have a decent storyline here and there. So he's going to go at the top of the C tier now. Next up, we have Jack. And not gonna lie, Jack was a little irritating to me. He was still pretty decent nonetheless. You know, he had that Omega Key storyline one time. And he was a pretty decent character, but he was annoying at times. And I didn't really care for it. But he's gonna just go at the bottom of the C tier. I'll give him a little bit more credit. Next up, we have Arachnid. And Arachnid, she was weird, not even gonna lie. She did have a cool rivalry with RC though. That was pretty cool. That definitely gives her points. But she was kind of weird, even though she did have like that Insecticon army. But then she like turned into a zombie at like the end of season 3 or season 2 or something like that. But she was a decent character. So she's gonna go in the C tier, but just below Hardshell. Next up, we have Preda King, and Preda King, he was a Predacon. He was the only Predacon I think who had a personality, at least before the movie. I didn't include the other two because I don't really remember them that much. I only remember Preda King really good, and he was a raw character. When he showed up, you know, he was a dragon. That was awesome. Then when he actually transformed and showed he had a personality, that was awesome too. So he's going to go in the A tier. Next up, we have Ratchet. And Ratchet was a cool character, you know. He brought the jokes as well, you know, always being angry at someone for wrecking his workspace. You know, he's the medic, also like sort of a tech genius. And he has some pretty cool fight scenes as well. So he's going to go at the bottom of the B tier for me. Next up, we have Bumblebee, and Bumblebee was raw in this show. I mean, he had some of the best fight scenes, some of the best storylines, behind like Optimus and maybe one other character on this list, but he was still cool nonetheless. He's the one who killed Megatron. He was goated after that scene, and then he got his voice back too in the movie, so that was awesome. So he's gonna go at the top of the A tier for me. Next up, we have Quake. He only showed up in one episode, and he was just a brute, you know, causing destruction and stuff. He was okay, but like I said, he only was in one episode. Well, unless you count that zombie episode, then I guess 2 episodes, but he was just cool with the fight scenes and stuff. But he didn't really do too much after that, so he's going to go at the bottom of the D tier. Next up, we have Breakdown, and I'm not going to include when Breakdown was taken over by like Sylas. I'm talking about when Breakdown actually had a personality. He was pretty cool. The fact that he was able to be destroyed by Sylas, I think. Actually, no, he was killed by Arachnid. That's right. Let me scratch that. But he was still a pretty cool character nonetheless. He was kind of a brute, just like Bulkhead. He had that rivalry with Bulkhead, which was awesome. So he's going to go in the B tier, but just below Bulkhead. Next up, we have RC, and RC was kind of goated. She had the most emotional storylines of the show, other than the humans. She had that connection to Cliffjumper, then she had that rivalry with Arachnid, which was cool. And, you know, she did have some awesome fight scenes as well. So she's going to go, I'm gonna put her just below Starscream in the B tier. Next up, we have Soundwave, and Soundwave was my favorite character of the show. He's definitely going at the top of the S tier. It's just, he moved in silence. It was awesome. He was a real G that moved in silence. He was awesome. He had some of the best fight scenes. Even though Laserbeak did half the stuff for him, he was still awesome nonetheless. Especially when he got his screen cracked, I knew it was over with. So he's definitely going in the S tier. Next up, we have Shockwave, and even though he only showed up in Season 3, he was still cool nonetheless. I mean, he's the one who found, and I think genetically engineered Preda King, so that was cool. And he has some pretty decent fight scenes, and he looked pretty accurate to like the G1 version of Shockwave, the source material too. So he's gonna go, I'll put him above Starscream in the B tier. Next up, we have Smokescreen, and Smokescreen was cool when he was in the show. I think he showed up like the end of Season 2. You know, he was always using the artifacts and stuff. He was a cool character to me. I really liked this character. He was like a Bumblebee-esque like protege, but who could talk or something like that. I mean, he was kind of like Bumblebee, you know, always ready to fight and stuff. Doesn't want to wait. But after like Optimus took him under his wing and stuff like that, I think he learned patience and stuff like that. He was still an awesome character nonetheless. So he's going to go at the bottom of the A tier for me. Next up, we have Miko. And Miko, for me, she got herself in a lot of situations that weren't really necessary if you really think about it. But, you know, she was a pretty decent character. You know, that flip phone came in handy for sure. Who never thought a flip phone would save the world sometimes? That's what her flip phone did. But for me, she's just gonna go, I'll put her in the C tier, but I'll just put her above Sylas. Next up, we have Ultra Magnus, and Ultra Magnus was a cool character. You know, he was by the book, second in command to Optimus Prime and stuff. He was cool. He had some pretty cool fight scenes. He did become a little humbler, though, when he lost his hand. But he was still a cool character nonetheless. So he's going to go at the top of the C tier for me. And finally, we have Wheeljack. I don't know what it is about the hot shots that just attract me more, but they attract me more because Wheeljack was a cool character, you know. He had that rebellious attitude, but he was still cool with the Autobots. He had that bond with Bulkhead and also like that sort of bond with Miko and stuff. And he was a pretty cool fighter as well, especially when like that little ninja mask went over. You know it was going down. So he's going to go at the bottom of the A tier for me. And that's the list, folks. For the first time ever, we have nobody in the F tier. So let's just give a round of applause for nobody in the F tier. In the D tier, we have Cliffjumper, June, Darby, and Skyquake. C tier, we have Ultra Magnus, Dreadwing, Knockout, Miko, Sylas, Hardshell, Arachnid, and Jack. B tier, we have Raph, Shockwave, Starscream, RC, Bulkhead, Breakdown, Agent Fowler, and Ratchet. A tier, we have Bumblebee, Preda King, Smokescreen, and Wheeljack. And in the S tier, we have Soundwave, Optimus Prime, and Megatron. Alright, y'all, that's the tier list. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know in the comment section down below what your tier list would be. Would you change mine a bit? Would you change it a lot? Or would you keep it the same? Let me know that. Also, let me know if I forgot any characters. I feel like I did, but just let me know in the comment section, and then I'll probably make like a little adjustment in the comments. Also, let me know what tier list you would like to see next. And if you did enjoy this video, just hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting close. So just keep subscribing, and the support will be very appreciated. And I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.